1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All mine.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. My name is Aaron Harris. I am one half of your hosting team, and I just wanted to welcome you back for part 2 of our review of the 5th episode of The Acolyte. This episode was entitled Night. Part 1 was, of course, episode 180, which will be linked in our show notes, or you can go into your podcast stream and go to the very previous episode, and you will find find part 1. Part 2 will be pick up where it left off, with me, of course, David, my co-host David Motters, and of course our special guest Samantha Kacho, as we continue to dig in and go share our reactions to Night. All right, well, let's keep going, because the other big part about this is the meeting between Osha and Mae there at the end. They finally come face to face, and you think, based on what's happened in the last episode where she's like, my sister's alive, it makes a difference. I'm going to turn myself in. I'm going to become and do what I need to, do the restitution I need to, because my sister being alive makes a difference. And then they finally come face to face, and we have them looking at each other, and the talk begins, and she's like, we're family. I love you, this and that. Let's go. And she's like, no, Osha's like, nope, you're under arrest. You've done bad things. You're going to pay for your crime. And then she calls her brainwashed by the Jedi. And to me, it was a very similar reaction they had to each other, where they were fighting to get together. And then, of course, through this fight, they were trying to help each other at some point, communicating through the Force with each other to try to help each other. And then they come face to face together at the end. It reminded, and the twist kind of reminded me of The Last Jedi, we have Rey and we have Ben, and they are taking out all the Praetorian guards. Snoke's been killed. The last one falls. They're there, and she's like, all right, let's go. We got to save the Resistance. And he's like, nope, you join me. Let's rule the galaxy and let's take over everything. And they thought they worked together, and now they're at odds again. And I kind of felt a similar vibe in this situation. What are you, David? I'm real curious for your thoughts too. What your thoughts are on now the relational dynamic between these two again, these siblings that are now back at odds with each other and are now going to be in a fight for their lives.
Yeah, initially I was, like I'd mentioned in my initial reactions, I was kind of like, well, okay, it just seemed like a very quick about face by Mae. Mm-hmm. Very frenetic, very chaotic, her interactions with Chimera, and it's all, last episode, it's all different now. I know that Osha's alive and she's the most important thing. And then you get to this episode, and then I think maybe a way to understand it is, that survival instinct kicks in. Mm-hmm. And she knows how powerful the stranger is, how her master is, and just trying to survive. And of course, we've seen people who are drowning, climb up over people. You're in water with a person, and they'll literally shove you down to get themselves out of the water. That's what it feels like. And I do like your example of The Last Jedi with Ben and with Rey. and how it quickly changed really quickly. So I do think about that. I also think about, I don't know if you guys have twins that you're around. We do here. We've got 6 of us couples, and we've got, I think with kids, there's 29 of us when we,
Oh, wow.
just this massive group of us when we roll into every place. And we do have twins, and they're, they look identical. I could not tell them apart forever. And my son and daughter would look at me and they're like, Dad, that's Harrison and that's Davis. And I'm like, what? I cannot tell them apart. Every kid could, but I couldn't for the longest time. Now that they're older, I can tell them apart. But the biggest way that I always do is personality wise, and how different they are personality wise. Now they look identical, but I know, because I know they're technically fraternal, right, versus identical twins. But it's lots of studies have been done on twins, and I don't know. I do think about some research. I think I've mentioned this before, a couple of years ago in one of my psychology corners. There was an article called Bad Seeds, and I gotta find it. I really need to find it. But it was research being done by some psychologists and psychiatrists looking at kids who, and I've talked to parents about this too. It's kind of wonky, but when you have 2 or 3 kids, you're like, what is wrong with this boy or girl? They're just mean. Like, remember when we first see Osha and Mae as kids under that tree, and I think Mae is trying to crush or pull the wings off of that little floating hummingbird. Mm-hmm. Remember that? And and I thought about it, and I've seen some of these kids. I've worked with some of these kids where you look at them and they just as soon punch you in the face than say hi to you. And it's not from bad parenting, because I've seen the parents. And I see 2 of their kids, and that boy and girl are fantastically well behaved. And you got this third kid who wants to light fires, does not have any respect for mom and dad, even though mom and dad are loving, caring people. They don't beat on their kids, stuff like this. And like I've said to you many times, Aaron and Samantha, I've talked about this. I've got a good buddy of mine who's a Marion County Sheriff's deputy, and we've talked about, sociopathy, psychopathy. And, these are people I don't want to come into contact with. He's come into contact with these people as a law enforcement officer, but they're almost, people just born, and they just as soon hurt you or kill you, and they're not going to feel bad about it. And it's kind of, it's something you don't want to see in humans, but you see it in Mae, and Leslie Headland again, and the writers have really kind of played on that. Is it true, like in that episode when Mae says, oh, you're going to leave and go, what are you going to do about it? And she's like, I'll kill you. And you're like, wait, whoa, that you just went DEFCON 5, sister. I mean, that's sociopathic, right? So is that really truly at the heart of her? And so I know I've been long-winded here, so forgive me, but just trying to explain this dynamic a little bit. I'm curious to see, are they going to stick with that that Mae really does have that darkness, that core darkness in her, whereas Osha really leans towards the light, and all 3 of us have seen her, defend the Jedi. No, the Jedi are good. She wanted to join them, even though she lived there on Brendok, so I'll be curious to see if they play that out. But anyways, there's just a few lighthearted thoughts, little bit for people to think about as they go to bed at night,
Very good. Very good. Any thoughts, Samantha?
I just see, I had a little bit of whiplash in this episode too, because, last episode, Mae's like, okay, I'm going to turn myself in to Kalnaka. And then in this episode, of course, she's hugging her sister, where I'm like, oh God, is she going to stab her? But no, then she pushes her off and switches clothes. And I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to think, how do I rationalize this? How does this make sense? I think like what David said, there's a survival thing in there. But she makes me think of one of these people who is just constantly trying to grab at like, what is it? What is driving me? And for when she was younger, it was her family, her community, this group of women, and that was destroyed. And somebody mentioned that actually during that scene with like the fire and whatnot, it looked like her eyes were almost black maze, which is like when you're being controlled. And it's like, was she possibly being controlled? I don't know. But I think her support system was just so dismantled when that happened. And so whenever Khmer found her, it was like, okay, this is my path. I'm going to, avenge my family that was taken from me. And then she finds out her sister's alive. And it's like, well, okay, no, I don't have to do this anymore. This is all I want is my sister. She is here. But then when she presents all of this information to Osha, and Osha is not accepting of what she says, which is like, the Jedi are bad. They've turned you against me. Hey, where have we heard that before? Anakin has said that. And Osha is not going to play ball with that. Then she can't grab at it. She's like, okay, what is the next best thing? Well, my next best thing is I got to get you out of the way. And kind of like with what David said, she can't, I don't think she wants to go back to Khmer. So is she going to go back to the Jedi to hopefully kill Sol? And I think that's probably her plan. Will that happen? I think she may start to get more insight into what Osha sees. And then, of course, now Osha will be with Khmer. And I think she's probably going to learn what actually happened, the night of the fire at her village. So, I just see Mae as somebody who always just, when that foundation was taken away from her, I felt like she was just very listless and just trying to find this sense of purpose was so strong. And so it seems like it can shift quite quickly, but it's like, okay, it's not this. Well, now it's this. She has to keep grabbing. Like, that's just what she's constantly doing. Whereas Osha just feels much more rooted, I think, in her sense of self. She knew she didn't necessarily belong when she was younger. And then she found this place. And then obviously with the Jedi, it didn't work to what happened. So she found this other place. And I think she's more easily adaptable to her situations. Whereas with Mae, it's just there's a lot of these roadblocks that she still has. And so it's going to be a really, I think, eye-opening thing to see, what happens. I think Sol I think he probably already has an idea that it is Mae. And he may be just going with it to see what she's trying to do. What is her next step? And then, of course, with Khmer and Osha, what he does with her.
Ooh, so
Very
delicious.
Love it. I think Saul's good. I think Saul will figure it out.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
He's a smart guy. He's going to figure it out. I think he's a little distracted by it right now with
he's also that
all
too.
The loss around him.
He's very compromised at the moment.
Think he's emotionally compromised because of everything, all of the death and destruction that just happened around him. The loss of his Padawan Jecki, and the loss of Yord, and
we
all
didn't even
these
talk
other
about Yord.
I know. We're going to. I promise.
He got his neck snapped.
I know, like a twig.
So
Of all, let's just go into it now. I mean,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. All the Jedi that died, and they're now one with the Force. Jecki was emotionally compromising for me. I was devastated when she died. I was just shocked when your Fandor died, especially the way he did.
Oh yeah, brutal.
He comes in, surprises the stranger, has him in his grasp with his saber, and is like, you, realizes who he's looking at. And within 4 moves, the stranger has reversed the hold and literally snapped his neck and just tosses him to the side like it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Leslie Headland is a very brave.
She is. And
because
yeah.
To take 2 Jedi, Yord and Jecki, that were heavily hyped during the previews of this show, that became literally fan favorites, and just 2 episodes, after the 2-episode premiere, they were fan favorites in this show. And to kill them off by episode 5, I'm sorry, that's, although it's fantastic storytelling, I was shocked. I mean, because Yord has developed a little bit of a cult following online.
Yeah, the Yord horde, yes.
The Yord horde, and he is, and they've really played it up too. StarWars.com.
They have,
and on
in
their
all of his
searches.
interviews.
Exactly, and it's insane to think that they're all. The thing is, I could see the guys at Lucasfilm sitting back going, "Oh, the Yord horde," and sitting back after they type something, they lean back and like, "Yeah, wait till episode 5."
Right. Absolutely.
It just blew my mind. Yeah, I
and that they showed it. They didn't pan away, like they didn't start it, like they actually showed it. And that's, I was very surprised with that. Cause like I said, that's hardcore. And I've played an actor, or I've played a person who's had their neck snapped, and it's hardcore to do too. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it's very violent. And she, like I said, she just put like all of her cards on the table right here, Leslie did. And I read she did that on purpose, because she said a lot of people, when they do season 1s, it's like they may end that first season as like an act break. But then if it's not renewed, you don't have the story finished. And she said that she put all of her, what she could into season 1, and that, if it could continue, she would do that. And I think that's very smart. And that's how you should do your storytelling, because especially now with television, you are not guaranteed that for anything. Exactly. You're just not.
That's right.
No, you're not, especially nowadays with as many shows get dropped after 3 or 4 episodes. It's insane. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she did a tremendous job squeezing this in. And if to see this many people killed, especially big star, I mean, let's look at this. We're at episode 5. Indara, Carrie Ann Moss, dead first 5 minutes of the series. Torben.
Oh, poor Tommen. Poor Tommen. Yeah. I'm saying Tommen because of Game of Thrones.
Trust me, when we talked about that episode, I kept calling him Tommen. I kept calling him Tommen instead of Torben.
Oh, poor Tommen. Yeah. Poor Torben Tommen.
He's gone. Kalnaka. My Wookiee. Gone. Barely saw him. Gone. And now Yord and Jecki. I'm sitting there going, I'm
and the witches?
The witch
in episode 3?
Yes. Yeah. Because Mother Anacia was a huge promotion as well. And she's gone. And it's like,
and I don't think Soul's gonna make it. He's not gonna make it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think he'll make it by the end of the series.
No, and I don't know. I mean, one of the twins I think will go. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're trying to make a Force dyad between the two of them, which I kind of get that vibe. But I don't know if she'll kill both, but I think at least one.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so, and I think it'll be in. I think one will. My opinion, one will die in sacrifice of the other.
Yeah, I agree.
Is where it'll go.
I agree.
But oh man, I can't. This has been this series. We're 5 episodes in, and this series is incredible. So we're not done yet, but we got to take another break. So bear with us. We will be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David and our special guest Samantha back at the table. We're talking more about Night, and this has been a fantastic discussion. And the one thing I want to hit on, of course, is and it'll be the last thing before we go in, start wrapping stuff up, will be, of course, we have Mae and we have the stranger, the Q-man, who are constantly telling Mae or telling Osha that, you know, that Saul's not telling her the truth, that there's more to the story, and seeding those, trying to seed doubt in Osha. And the question is, what really happened on that planet? What happened in that coven? What happened to the witches? Because there's a lot of story there that we don't know. And especially, I don't know if you caught it, Samantha, in the flashback episode, episode 3, where they have the flashback and you see young Torben as the Padawan, and you see him all through that episode, and he is clean faced. He's a clean cut young Jedi Padawan. And at the end of the episode, when they're on the ship, if you look, he's got that scar across his eye,
right?
Like he does, like the older Torben does. So it's like, okay, what happened to give him that scar? So there's more to the story we have not seen besides what we saw. It is just a matter of what is the story. And I got this crazy idea. They're going to show us 2 sides of the story and basically leave it up to us to determine what we think is the right version. It all depends on your certain point of view.
Right. And or if they do like the Last Jedi thing where you had like I guess you ended up having was it 2 versions in that one? You had Luke's and then you had Kylo's and
yes.
I can't even remember. Okay, then I guess it was Kylo's was the more realistic one in that one. Though, I mean, for Luke, it felt like what it was.
Yeah.
I think we'll have 2 as well, but I think it'll be episode 7 because the guy who directed episode 7 is the one who also did number 3.
Yeah. So that'll probably be where we get our answers. Who knows? But then again, it'll probably leave us the way this series goes, it'll leave us with more questions than answers. It's just the way they've been dealing with it. So, and that's honestly, it is a page straight out of the Dave Filoni handbook.
Yeah.
Dave was good at that with some of his series that he would do, some of his animated series, leave you hanging with questions. So.
Well, I just want to say something real quickly there.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about, 2 different views, 2 different memories, Mae's and Osha's. But then Samantha said something maybe 5-10 minutes ago, and I was like, whoa. And this is where this series, I mean, it gets you talking, and there's no shortage of things to cover and discuss. But here's what Samantha said, like, was Mae in some way controlled, just like Torben was there for a little bit, was Mae controlled, not Osha, but Mae, and was she doing something like that put Soul and Kelnaka and Master Indara and Torben in a bad spot, and then everything goes to hell in a handbasket there inside of that facility where they were living. And then you flash back to Torben talking to Mae saying, I'm so sorry, we thought we were doing the right thing. And then you wonder, maybe Soul and Kalnaka and them didn't do anything bad, or maybe they did, and so Samantha, you got me thinking about, another perspective on this. Is it the Jedi did wrong? Did someone in the Coven do something wrong? Maybe not even Mother Anastasia, because she seemed to be pretty, level-headed about stuff. And so there's so many layers here that I'm curious to see how it's peeled back. But, if it is like what you said, Aaron, all 3 of us remember, what was it, Inception, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio? And, you would know if you were in the dream or how many levels you were in, if the top would stay up or fall down, right? And how does Christopher Nolan end it, right at that point you're watching it. Wait, did it fall? Did it not fall? Right? And just leaves you with that, right? That if Leslie Headland does that, it would be like, oh my gosh. Well, there'd be your season 2, right, Samantha? Right there.
Yeah. I think there was like an additional party involved. I think like Chimere or, if he has a master, I think they were probably interested in the twins too, because if the Jedi are like, whoa, what's going on here? You would got to think that anybody on the opposite end could be too, and how do they use that to their advantage? And again, the Jedi, just through their own hubris and their own denial of certain things, don't even necessarily see it. And then I don't know about the witches and whatnot. And again, that's why I think she's going to go around and have it be like, it's not just one of them who was the instigator, or like the witches are not just bad, because we've had people say that for centuries, and we're so past that now. And well, you think you are, and then Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness comes out, and you're like, nope, not really. Sorry, I'm very salty about that film. So, but it's just like I think there's somebody additional who's taking advantage of this situation of both of them, and these two young girls, who I think put together they're kind of the Force, they're push and pull, yin and yang, and you put them together, and it's kind of like it's this whole thing, which you think about with twins too, so many times you feel like they're just like halves of sharing something. And so that's where, but I will be really curious, does she end it, with one of them gone? Are they together and they're stronger together? I don't know.
Very interesting.
And Soul's just crying. No. I love him so much. Yeah. Lee Jung-jae is phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. And I will say this series has done an incredible job of selling their cast and making them so appealable to the public. And I haven't felt this much enjoyment from I've loved a lot of the Star Wars we've gotten, most of it. I love it. I love everybody that's been in it, whole 9 yards. But there's just something about certain casts, like the cast of the Clone Wars, the cast of Rebels. There's just a certain aspect about this cast that reminds me of that type of group. And I'm enjoying, and I think that's what makes the series that much more enjoyable, is because I just feel like there's more relationship in this cast than what we've seen in some other shows. So just my thought. So
absolutely. And I'm glad that it is representative of the people who watch, and you can't have storytelling be homogenous. You just can't, and that's why I think this show is so important, and why I'm so glad to be talking about it. And I just had one thought, because we didn't bring it up, but I know we're almost done. But I wanted to ask, because I had it in my notes. Well, I'd mentioned like the Jedi burials was one, but what did you guys think of the Force healing at the end? Because I saw a lot of people talking about that, like, oh, is it Plagueis? Is it Plagueis? Is it just something that he can do? I'm curious what you guys think.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because my next thing was going to be, was there anything else you wanted to talk about that we hadn't mentioned? So that was perfect.
Yeah, because that kind of is just slipped in there at the end.
Yes. No, it was a nice slip in, and very subtle. And if you weren't familiar with some of the past uses of the Force healing, you would probably it probably slipped right by a lot of people. But no, it definitely shows a power that he has, that it just proves how strong this stranger is, the Q-Man is, because it's not something that all Jedi are able to do. We don't see a lot of Jedi doing it. Matter of fact, I think we've only had 3 samples of it.
Yeah.
In
Rey
fandom.
and Grogu, and then
Rey, Grogu, and at the end, Ben
on screen at least.
on screen,
yeah.
So
and then Ben, yeah.
Ben. So I think we've seen it 3 times. This would be number 4. So it's a big deal. Because before it's always been we see Grogu do it, we see Rey do it, and we see Ben do it at the end of Rise of Skywalker to save Rey, but he is not Kylo anymore. He's Ben Solo. So it's been a light side power that we've seen, and now we got a dark side user doing it. So it's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a big step in expanding the Sith power, in my opinion, the dark side power. So yeah, I thought it was a unique insert into Star Wars lore there, having the stranger do that. David, how about you?
Well, no, I love what both of you said about that, and I was just going to comment on what Samantha was mentioning about the Jedi that are still there on Kofor. Is it Kofor? Kofor, the planet. But I was just like, I was thinking about that even more, and what does Soul say when he gets back to the the Jedi Temple on Coruscant? I don't know what you say. Do you?
Right.
And we already know that Vernestra Rowe and some of these Kiadi-Mundi and stuff are all part. They're not part of the High Council, and so does he just talk to them amongst them, and tells them? But something, and I don't know, Samantha, if you thought about this, and I was telling Aaron, like if you're around the Jedi Temple and you would have to say, hey, where is Yord? Where's Jecki? Where's all these Jedis that went on that mission with Saul? I mean, and how is this going to be covered up? And do they go back and does Soul do this? Do the funeral pyres and stuff there? But obviously, I think he knew he had to get out of there because the stranger's still around. And
he just was indisposed with our our bug friends.
Yes. Yeah. So it's great. Yeah. That's the healing thing, and then everything that went down, and just watching Soul walk to the ship with of course we know it's Mae, and then of course we see Basil with Pip.
With Pip.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like, this ain't her. He's like, she don't smell right.
That's right. And so anyways, even if Soul doesn't figure it out, I'm sure Basil and Pip will be more than willing to give Soul a hint at who this is. But no, everything, the questions regarding the healing, questions regarding what were these Jedi, and what does Soul say when he gets back to the temple, if that's the next scene that we go to. I'm all in. I can't wait. But yeah, it's
just imagining like Ron Burgundy, like, well, that escalated quickly.
Yes.
Just like emoji shrugs. Sorry. Oh God.
Oh geez.
I love it. And I'm glad you mentioned Basil, David, because I forgot all about Basil. Yeah. I love that little guy. And honestly, if it wasn't for Basil, this episode would have been a lot heavier than what it really felt.
Yeah.
He provided just a wee bit of, comic relief. Randomly popping up at little.
That was hysterical. Like Chimera just gets done from fighting I can't remember what the bug friends are called. And he just barely walks off screen, and then Basil comes in.
Yeah.
He's just like, it feels very almost like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. It's like just happening like off screen, and he comes in, and just all this stuff happened.
Oh, yes, absolutely. He just randomly pops up and keeps on going. It's like, okay. It's great. I love it. So yes, Basil is a favorite. And I will say this, you could tell by the way he sniffed the air and looked at Pip, and there at the end on the ship, he knows that's not Osha.
Oh, totally.
Totally knows it's not Osha. And I will say this, I doubt you are listening, but Leslie, if you are listening, you've taken Jecki, you've taken Yord, take Basil. We're going to have issues, my dear.
We're going to fight in a field.
We're going to scrap. And it's not going to be pretty. So please don't take my Basil.
That'd be like killing the dog, kind of.
Yeah, and it didn't work well for John Wick.
No.
Like, figured if he would died, Yord would have been there to go John Wick on everybody. But no, it's up to Basil now to go John Wick on everybody. But we'll see. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. So, all right, everybody. Well, let's close this out and get this wrapped up. We've got a great episode, a great discussion. Final reactions. Let's get this started and out of the way. David, I'll let you go first. What are your final reactions to the episode Night?
I mean, yeah. I mean, what more can you say? There's a lot more. I mean, it's just, that's what's great about these episodes, the way they've written this. This is a wonderful conversation. This is so fun to talk to you and to Samantha about this. I love it. But this is an unbelievable episode. Like I said, the lightsaber and fighting choreography was incredible. Mm-hmm. And we talked about each episode, right? It answers some questions, but then presents us with more. How will the Sith remain unknown? Or like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, are we going to see a few Jedi know that the Sith have been present, but they just keep it secret from the rest of the Jedi? We see them keeping secrets from each other, right? We see Vernestra and others saying, hey, we can't let the High Council, know these things. That's already problematic. I have a little note to myself here. When Leslie Headland said she wanted to explore how the Jedi and Republic begin to crumble, she wasn't kidding.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting to see how she's playing this out and how these critically bad decisions and how it allows darkness to enter and to grow. And like all three of us have hinted at, I'm beyond curious as to what we'll see here and learn in the last 3 episodes of this season. So incredible episode, one of the best I've ever seen in Star Wars live action TV. So I don't know, what are your thoughts, Samantha?
Let's see, I'm trying to think for my wrap up. The one thing that I thought of, because I was thinking about putting like Osha and Mae together, it was making me think of something that Stranger Chimere said. He was talking about how he's talking with Soul and he says, I've accepted my darkness. And it made me think of Yoda in the Clone Wars when he does his whole how to become a Force ghost arc, and he has to fight his shadow self. And thinking about how, like with the Jedi, for so much of them, it's just you push it away, you don't recognize it. And then if you're on the dark side, you're letting it consume you. And this idea of how Yoda in that episode where he fights his shadow self, it's like he grabs it and he brings it in. And it's like, I'm not going to let you consume me. You are a part of me. This is it. And I want to see how that plays out for the rest of it, because I think that's something that both Osha and Mae are going to have to deal with. You could put them both as like these archetypes where you put them together and that's like one person. But I want to see how each of them deal with it, because you're seeing on like both sides. You can see right now for the Jedi how it's starting to show cracks in them. And then but even for something like the Sith, they're always dying too, because you always got to be on your toes. Like, okay, who's going to come after me next? And that's not a way to live either. That's not right. So when Chimere said that, it just stuck with me. And it made me think of Yoda taking that shadow self and just bringing it in. And that's something that I think, that's what I want to see happen with Mae and Osha. There are protagonists, hopefully both of them, do they do it together? Is it just one of them? I don't know. But I think we're starting to see that sprinkling of it now that both sides, the line has firmly been drawn. And, we'll see if we get that in 3 episodes. Does she leave a little bit of it open? But this is something, of course, that Star Wars has been about since day one. And I know there's always discussions about that too. But when I think about it just from my own kind of perspective as a person and as somebody who has gone through therapy and continually what I have to do with this work, I call it bitter work. I borrow it from Avatar: The Last Airbender, from an episode where Zuko learns firebending and Aang learns earthbending. It's this bitter work that we do, but it's something that's so important and so vital and integral to who we are as humans and how we just interact with everyone. And I cannot wait to see how it pans out. And those little seeds have been planted here.
Well said. Well said. Well, my final reactions are very simply fantastic episode. Again, I there's not enough time in the day to talk about how much I'm enjoying this series. And this was just par for the course. Leslie Headland is doing a tremendous, or has done a tremendous job, exceeding any and all expectations I had for this series. And we're not even done with it yet. So this was just par for the course. I loved everything we saw. I loved the action, the cinematography, the music. The soundtrack was just spectacular. Yeah. The twists in the story, the writing, everybody in this episode played their part to perfection. There wasn't anything in the acting I did not believe, I did not feel. I mean, it was a lot. Man, it hit me in the feels. It's not, I honestly can say, and I'm willing to say it, I don't think we've seen that many Jedi die on screen that quickly since Order 66. Mm-hmm. And it definitely packed a punch in the gut there. So, but again, 3 episodes left. I honestly cannot wait till next week to see what happens next. It's going to be incredible to see. So, all right. Well, with that wraps up our final reactions there. Of course, we do want to hear from everybody out there what your reactions were tonight. I know we heard from a couple of y'all online. Mary said it was intense, and similar sentiments from a couple other people. So it has been fantastic to see everybody enjoy it, and enjoy the series. And I know there are some out there that have not been enjoying the series. They're just not sold on it. You know, and guess what? That's okay. Not everything is going to be for everybody, and we're getting so much content right now. Hopefully what comes out next, you'll absolutely love. So, I mean, there's been stuff, I mean, like David will testify, I wasn't sold on the first season of Vision, but I love the second season. So, I mean, there's going to be things. It just happens. But don't let that sour you on Star Wars. Don't let that sour you on the people that do love it. So, but let us know what y'all think. You can hit us up on any of our social media, Facebook and Twitter at SW Reactions Pod. We are on Pinterest and TikTok and Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky and YouTube and Tumblr. And actually, that's it. So, and that's all at SW Reactions. Of course, email us, swreactions@gmail.com. Or, of course, you can leave us a voicemail anytime you want. Speakpipe.com/Star Wars Reactions. Whew, take a breath. All right. David, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend, for your factoid this week.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I've been talking about a 4-part factoid, and I've been hinting at that at the end of the last few episodes. And so with this section, what I want to do is look at the use of psychedelics in helping people with treatment-resistant mental health conditions. And this is something that's really been coming to the forefront over the last several years. And there's a reason for it. And let me give you some factoids. on some treatment-resistant conditions. And these are some staggering numbers. And you heard Samantha just mention therapy, and I do it all the time and have done it as well, like her. I would encourage everybody to do it. But check this out. 40 to 60% of people with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, don't respond to selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Those are SSRIs, right? Like Zoloft, Paxil, Effexor, Celexa. I was talking to clients about these all day today. But those are the first line medications for that condition, okay? But here's the thing, not only do 40 to 60% of them with this type of trauma not respond to SSRIs, many do not respond to trauma-focused therapies. So let me add something else. And by the way, I got this from the most recent edition of the Monitor on Psychology. I want to make sure I give them credit. I get that as a member of the American Psychological Association. But the author, she also mentions that a third of people diagnosed with major depressive disorder experience treatment-resistant depression. And when you have this kind of stuff, and I've mentioned this a little bit before in some psychology corners and such, is that when you have treatment-resistant conditions that have anxiety and depression in them, what you've seen across our country is that as mental health professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, researchers, we are absolutely desperate to find anything to help bring relief to these kind of conditions. So the hope, what I'll do in the next few psychology factoids is I'll lay out some more information on them. And really the hope is that psychedelics could provide not only relief, but even quicker relief than maybe some of the SSRIs in traditional therapy. I'll talk about 4 of the main psychedelics that they're looking at coming up in another factoid, and give some other information about it. And so, yeah, it's just very interesting, and I'm really hopeful that this can be something that will help people. I've mentioned ECT, right, electroconvulsive therapy, TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. All of these are also being used, just so our listeners out there know that. And these things have helped people. ECT has helped people, TMS has, and now we're hoping that maybe psychedelics can. There's some concerns about them. Again, I'll talk about those in some the next 3 psychology factoids. But I will leave it at that, and hopefully people will be interested and follow back with the rest of the information and factoids I share.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, David. And of course, if somebody has questions about your factoid or they want to talk Star Wars with you, what is the best way to do that, my friend?
Absolutely. The best way is Twitter X, and Daz Davies called that out for me the other day on Coffee with Kenobi. So Daz is copying me all the way over in Wales. Love you, Daz. But Twitter X, at David_Modders, MODDERS. Instagram is just my name, David Modders. And like I said, people can send anything to our socials, and Aaron would, just forward it on to me.
Absolutely. I definitely will. And of course, for me, anywhere online, any of our show socials, you'll get to me. Or of course, you can hit me up on my personal X at TA Harris 121079. Samantha, what's going on with you? How can people find you online if they want to, and what does the future hold for Samantha?
Well, the main place for online would be Twitter X. I will never be able to say X. I still just say Twitter, but Twitter X, that's good. My Twitter X handle is SamDyeK, SAMDYEK. And whether it's Star Wars or, hey, if you want to talk about therapy, I'm like Oprah voice. You get therapy. I love therapy. I'll talk about therapy. Anything like that. And then just, I think I said this the last time, right now, if you pull up Netflix, you can find me in Pain Hustlers with Chris Evans and Emily Blunt.
And I really did actually enjoy that movie.
It was fun. It was a fun movie. It really was.
It really was. I did enjoy. I actually watched it the week after you were on last. I actually had some free time where I could actually watch a movie, and I'm like, I got to watch that.
Yeah.
And it was really good. I enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
good job.
You can go listen to me curse at Chris Evans.
And I think that was my favorite part.
I did. It's like, oh, you can curse at Captain America. Let's do it.
You have lived a fantasy for a lot of people.
Right. And then he curses back at me. So,
I know. How rude.
what more can you ask? Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. And what would a Star Wars reaction episode be if we didn't end it with our traditional, highly requested Star Wars dad joke of the week?
Let's do it.
All right. Samantha's here to help me.
And I say highly requested because I got a text today asking for dad jokes. So and honestly, David, it is the second text I've gotten in a week asking for dad jokes from different people.
By the way,
So
Samantha,
funny.
this is a friend of ours. We get
Oh,
it.
okay.
I'm like, okay, way to make Aaron's head even bigger. And he was totally in his glory earlier today, Samantha. Now he's got multiple people asking him for Star Wars dad jokes. It's out of
I know.
control
That's
here.
so funny.
Yes, it's great. So, well, here's a fun one for you tonight. What do you call an Ewok without any teeth?
What do you think, Samantha? What do we call an Ewok without any
I'm trying to
teeth?
think of words like dealing like Wicket or Poplu or Endor. I'm trying to think. Or Yubnub or I don't know.
What Tree Village? What is it, Aaron?
It's a gummy bear.
Oh,
Aw. That's cute.
It's a gummy bear.
oh. Actually, wait, there's some that are like the rim shot dunk, they're horrible. That was actually kind of good, Aaron.
That was cute.
Well, I won't tell you what it is, but I will recommend that. I did end up sharing a dad joke on Greg's show last night on Rebel Base Card. And so I won't tell you what it is. I'm going to make y'all go listen to it. But it was good. It was good. It was Greg's first time getting a dad joke without you as a buffer, David. So
He took it all. This is why I'm
That's so
thankful
funny.
when we have guests.
you'd be proud of him, David.
I am proud of Greg. Usually I'm doing this by myself with Samantha here. At least it takes a little bit of
Right.
the pain, right? I need a pain hustler here. I need something.
That's all we do.
Well, again, Samantha, thank you so much for joining us again. The door is always open anytime you want to talk Star Wars.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome back anytime, anywhere. Just say the word. David, brother,
Thank you.
blast as always, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Y'all are the best. We love you. We're praying for you. We wish you all the best. Remember, I say it each week, and I mean it each week. Do something kind for somebody this week. It will, you won't understand how much it will change your life and make you feel better until you've actually helped somebody and done something kind for someone. So do it and make it a habit. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.